Hello, everyone. I'm Joe Welu. Thanks so much for tuning in to Expert Insights, where we talk with industry leaders across modern financial services to discuss leadership and innovation. Let's get started. Hello, everyone. Super excited for today's episode. Have a longtime industry expert and really sought after executive, Katherine Campbell from Assurance Financial with us today. Katherine, fantastic to have you here today. So thanks so much for the time.
Thank you. Thrilled to be here with you.
Good to see you again. I want to start out maybe just a little bit about you, and please chime in here if I'm missing anything. But I know you're obviously an incredibly analytics-driven executive. You've got a lot of expertise, web conversion, UI, technical integration, over 20 years digital experience in the financial services vertical. Selecting, adopting, integrating a couple of dozen new technologies in the last 3 years. I know you've been actively involved in those projects. In addition to launching a new brand, you're on track with the industry to offer end-to-end mortgage solution, fully modern. I know you've been featured on webinars for digital trends. You were named a Housing Wire Tech Trendsetter, and were named into the 2022 Legends of Lending. So did I miss anything? That's a hell of a resume.
No, that's good enough. That really well. Not to mention, we were just calling ourselves young, and I'm already a legend. So I don't know about that exactly, but
right, legend can mean a little bit different things, but I think you've definitely earned legend status, and so I want to jump into some topics today and really have you share your perspective and some of the key learnings that you've had recently. With the dramatic shift to the purchase market, obviously we were in a refi. We were talking about it a little bit before we went on air. We were in an environment where literally loans and money was falling from the sky. Now we've sort of shifted back to an industry that is you've got to figure out ways to create opportunities. Market's now shifted to where you've got to rely on tech and innovation in this year and probably even into the next few years. Really, there's not necessarily going to be this exuberant market to where there's an abundance. So, what changes, if any, have you made to your tech stack and or strategy specifically to address the market shifts?
Yeah, that is the question, isn't it? So, I cannot imagine in a challenging market like we're facing in 2022, 2023, what they used to do. I wasn't in the mortgage industry back in the 2007, 2003 era, when things were very difficult. So I feel so fortunate to have arrived when we do have tools, we do have resources. We are not so heavily dependent on, the motivation of the individual LO who is typically self-sourcing. So I would say that the major strategy I changed is really kind of twofold. And that is, I completely, just my internal expectations have changed. There was a lot of tolerance when I first got here in 2018, a lot of resistance to this. Everybody knows the digital changes in every industry are difficult. There's a lot of pushback. There's the never adopters. I'm never using that link. I'm never logging in, right? Now everyone has used the link. Everyone has kind of logged in. We've got single sign-ons across a lot of these tools. But it's no longer sort of a coddling initiative. It is a very much required expectation that everyone in the company is adopting and utilizing this very expensive venture into the new world of this product. And it's not just us, right? So if it was just us, there might be, hey, we could nobody would notice, but it's the whole industry, and we will compete. We will meet the market expectation. And so, laying down the hammer a little bit more on the expectation of adoption of all these tools.
So I want to drill into that a little bit.
Okay.
So if I think about what you're telling me, the technology, and I agree with you if this is what you're saying, the technology has actually gotten to a point over the last few years where there's a lot of really great things that are possible, right? You can use automation, you can use data, you can really scale what you would normally think is possible for people that are out engaging with customers. And one of the gaps that I agree with that I heard you speak about is people were just okay putting their head in the sand and not necessarily doing anything different because for better or worse, it was working pretty well for the last few years. And so really what you're saying is as a leadership organization, and I know you're an amazing leader and executive, but I'm guessing you've been able to get buy-in from the rest of the executive team that says now is the time to actually lean in and raise the standard. And we're going to go out to our field, our team, and say, this is the path, right? Is that what you're saying? And fill in the context there.
That is exactly right. I mean, we used to sort of call it the happy path. This is the ideal way to go. And you better believe it. Our CEO, COO, and certainly our CFO are very clear to find an ROI, right? Which is what this conversation is really about. What are we doing? What is the end game here? And there are tangible, in fact, our own Sue Woodard released a fantastic article about ROI for Stratmore recently, and she just nails it. And that there are tangibles and intangibles, and it would be great if we could already be, let's say, auto insurance. So if you think before Geico and the auto, the online auto insurances of the world, where it was so easy to go online, and do it the way today. You just put your VIN number in, it knows where you are, it transfers you. All you do is opt in yes or no. I mean, you don't even do anything, right? You don't have to get up and find anything. It's there. And so it's pretty incredible technology, and it's absolutely the expectation. And so that is, a nice place to be. And I can promise you, as you well know, we will get there in this market, in this industry as well. But until then, they had the same transition issues that we are having right now. And you can either feel really fortunate, like I do, probably you, because we love technology. Not everybody does feel that way. And so you do have to meet people where they are in it. But it's also a very exciting time. And we get to be the pioneers that get to do this.
Yeah, no, I think that's so true. And the one thing I think I see a difference in the organizations that we work with is you can just feel the companies where there's a mindset of optimism and leaning in to the future, which is what you represent and what's possible, and sort of the people that are trying to really navigate in a lot of ways behaviors and patterns that have kind of held the industry back from evolving, right? I mean, if we're being honest, right, a lot of the challenges with getting technology fully enabled across the ecosystem have been resistance from the teams, right? And change management and just not wanting to do it. And how do you make your point that it's not an option? Like, do you just come out and say, look, if you don't do this, you're going to die? Like, do you get that dramatic? Like,
pretty much, yes. We threaten them with their lives. No. I can't.
I mean, not literally, but like in business, you're going to die.
Yeah, exactly. No, what it is I set very clear expectations. So, first of all, change is difficult no matter the circumstance. So there must be an empathy about the fact that you're asking someone to change their entire livelihood, and particularly for a compensation, right? That these people are largely solely getting their own business and compensated for what they eat, what they kill. So we created, some fun stuff. Actually, I have this here still, this mouse pad called it's STOP, which is our standard technology operating procedure at Assurance Financial. And we talk about, what is the procedure? And we're going to roll it out to you. We sort of use that Aristotle approach, where it's like, tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. That's just from a marketing perspective. It is just important that the marketing team and the technology team works together for internal marketing and conversation as much as the external marketing and conversation. That is just as vital to us. And so we have in Total Expert, we have a marketing database, right? That we send our monthly newsletters and our, messages through to the company.
To your internal teams.
Through our internal, we do our own internal flyers through Total Expert. It's just as much as an internal tool for us as it is an external tool.
That's really interesting. And if you think about your ROI, and this goes for really anything in the technology space that you're investing in as a company, it's so directly tied to the buy-in of the people that are out face-to-face engaging with customers. And so what you're explaining is you're really intentional about running an actual sales and marketing process to your internal team to keep them engaged. And so that's very different than the traditional path, which has been you do a big splash at the rollout, and then sort of every month that goes by after the rollout, it gets diminished just a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
I do not tolerate that. Now, again, I've been doing this for 20 years, so I've had the luxury of not always doing this right the first time. But I will tell you here, understanding, that this is the most laggard industry out there. So even our youngest loan officers were resistant to this because it likely was the only job they had. And this is all they knew. They didn't realize how advanced other capabilities were in other industries. And so, we have what's called Make More Money Monday. We call it M4, Make More Money Monday. And that Make More Money always highlights some technology, a tip or trick in it. And then we answer any questions that the field has about anything to do with marketing. It's usually about 15 or 20 minutes. We have pretty high attendance. People pop on and, we can answer their questions. If it is something critical that we're just rolling out, let's say like when we had Total Expert, every single Make More Money Monday was, the first 4 after that were just strictly Total Expert. In fact, I remember my biggest win, and it was a big learning experience, and I'm sure everyone's had this, where I had a very resistant branch manager. He would not attend any meetings. He would never log in. He was not encouraging his team. And then it was about a year and a half later. I mean, we've been with you guys for 4 years now. So it was about a year and a half later, he was at a conference with me and he said, Katherine, I know you're probably going to tell me I could find all this online and I haven't been showing up, but could I learn Total Expert? And I said, win. This is a win. I will take this win. I'm going to call you myself, because it's not when you roll it out. That doesn't mean they're ready when you roll it out, right? Some people are. You have early adopters, but you never give up on people, because when they're ready, you better be ready.
Yeah, it's really the bridging the gap between, you've got real humans here that you're relying on, which is such a critical part. I know we as much of technologists as we are, we both believe fundamentally that the power of human connection and the importance of high quality advice in these transactions is not going anywhere. And it's probably even more critical than ever. The question is how do you create a scenario where you can take somebody and turn them into an even better version of themselves or the way they were running their business, and actually take it to a level that they wouldn't have been able to take it to with just doing things all on their own and manually.
You're exactly right. It's for any C-level people that might be listening to this, we use a term in technology, 2 terms, UI and UX. And so you have, the UX is really the experience that you have. And the UI is how you're actually utilizing the tool. So you have, very different, where do I click to navigate? And then you have, how do I feel about this experience of actually using it, right? And so that's the literal technology that's important, certainly from the consumer side, but definitely you want your internal teams to have this great UX as well. But it's just as important that surprise and delight is part of the UX and everything that we're transitioning through, and not just the UI, right? So it's really important that you don't just say, here's how you use it and here's where you log in. It's guess what this can do and guess what we just integrated with. It's like, okay, wow, this is cool.
Well, and I'm guessing you have to show them the outcomes that are possible, right? So what are some of those, if you don't mind me asking,
Sure.
What are some of those huge benefits or outcomes that you're talking about when and it doesn't have to be related to anything with Total Expert, anything in the tech stack that comes to mind. What are the things right now that you're leaning into when you're going out and pitching the adoption of tech? What are the big benefits you're drilling in?
So, It is, you really must, I believe, build it first. So to promise people a lot of information and capabilities and try to get them motivated and then feel demotivated if they're not motivated is just not the path. That's just never going to happen. Build it all out, surprise and delight, and then, show them. And that,
So you're showing them a benefit. So, and I'm going to guess something to do with like, surfacing deals that they would have not otherwise been able to see. Is that like an example?
Perfect example. So when we first brought on Total Expert, I'll give you one quick example then and one example now. When we first brought on Total Expert, the marketing department was just taking emails like to everyone personally. Like they would do whoever they randomly wanted to email in marketing. I want a flyer. I want it to be about this. I want it blue. I want my headshot over there. Right. It was just absolutely non-scalable. So when I came on board, I said, here's the deal. No one can do a marketing request for 8 weeks. This is right when we were adopting you. And they're like, for 8 weeks? And they were, you better fire her. It's crazy. So
I was going to say, you really had a lot of swagger.
This is having support from the entire executive team, right? And they were not happy about it either. I'm going to tell you, no one was happy about it. But I outsourced 2 very small creative teams that I said, when these guys call you, get it done. So it's not that they didn't have a resource. They just didn't have an internal resource. We didn't really have much of a brand that I had to be too worried about outsourcing it anyway. So they were taking the request. And for 8 weeks, we built our brand and filled Total Expert with 200 new pieces of creative. So if you say you're going to do it, you better deliver, right? In 8 weeks, 200 pieces of creative. And once we got the brand sort of rolling and the templates rolling, when they logged in and saw it, it was like, wow. So now we had a significant drop in the number of requests that came in for marketing, because even if they didn't look, we could say, well, would this work for you? And send the link. They go, oh yeah, actually, that's exactly what I'm talking about, type of thing.
So instead of just reacting to everything, you were doing the opposite.
The proactive approach. Yeah. So now what has happened since it's evolved and we have many hundreds of pieces of collateral there is, today it is a difficult and very creative need right now. It's really, everyone must be very creative to find business. And so these loan officers are geniuses. Some of the really good ones, they're not, hunkering down and whining and crying in their soup. They are out thinking, instead of a one-to-one, which a lot of Total Expert was sort of one-to-one, you're in processing with us from this loan officer to this client. This is what's going on. From, the need you have for this particular product, this loan officer is giving you this flyer. This one house that has an open house, the MLS listing, the single property sites, which are phenomenal. That is a one-to-one sort of conversation. We've now sort of taken Total Expert to doing a one-to-many conversation. And that is by saying, okay, what are the relationships you guys are building? So some people are finding all the hospitals in their region really didn't have a preferred lender. And so they can go on their intranet and offer, if you're with this hospital, we'll give you $500, off your closing fees. Now we're creating, in fact, sometimes multi-page, what we call downloadable guides for everyone to use with, if you're with, and all they have to do is trade out the logo of the hospital and say, we're your preferred lender, if you can get that agreement from people.
Now, one question out of curiosity, that's such a great example. Are you also then packaging that with education type content about homeownership in general? Is that part of it?
I love it. God, I'm almost tempted to screen share with you. We'll do that later. But we have what we call box campaigns. And if there's literally an image of a little cardboard box next to the title of a campaign, like let's say hospital partnership, then it's got every piece in Total Expert available to you. It has social media, it has lunch and learn graphics and customizable invitation. So you can change the date and time yourself within that invitation. It has the postcards if you want to send them. It has Facebook background images for, the invites for the lunch and learn. And then it can have these downloadable guides. So they know they've got an out of the box campaign if they want to go pitch hospitals.
So that's incredible. So you have taken a strategy of being a preferred lender for a very tight-knit organization, or in this case, a hospital workplace. And you've actually strategically went through all of the components that they need, so they don't have to think about, oh, well, what do I say? What do I do? What do I hand them? It's like perfectly packaged. And that's, you and your team have done that from what I'm hearing.
That's exactly right. We
Amazing.
use I was going to see if I love the show and tell game. I don't have it right here, but we do something called BizBox. Have you ever heard of a Birchbox?
Yeah. Oh,
Or
yeah.
okay, so like you're
Is that
surprised.
the
You
one? Is
say
that the one where the dog stuff gets delivered, or is that a different one?
that
There's a
that
couple of them.
they have those, so they have them for everybody,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Okay.
So you just say, okay, let's say it's the dog one. I'm willing to spend, $50 a month or $100 a month on my dog. Show, whatever comes in the mail as a surprise, and you have fun with your dog. Well, we call it a biz box. We do the same thing. So we, right before we release it, we upload it to Total Expert and we mail it out to everyone. We actually go into everyone's accounts, everyone who has signed up for this. And we have about 70, really, I guess 80% of our loan officers are signed up for this. And they pay a whopping $25 a month, right? And we subsidize the rest. And we send them this biz box that has a nice slick flyer that's now uploaded in their Total Expert account, so they can continue handing them out. But we send them 10 with 10 little tchotchke giveaways that match that flyer. So in other words, this month we did like financial, let's see if this is probably not going to show through this thing, but financial fitness. This is just a water bottle. Financial
Yeah,
fitness.
there we go.
Right,
Like it. I like
equals
it.
healthy home buying. And so we have this really cool flyer of financial, someone getting fit. So they're getting fit for the new year in January. They get this nice gift. They can fill it with, hopefully not candy since we're getting fit, but whatever they want to fill it with, pins and tchotchkes or whatever. And then now when they walk in, they can talk about financial fitness and helping realtors' clients prepare to buy this year. They may not do that in January. So it's like, what do I even talk about in January, since they're probably not buying in January? Well, I can give them a financial fitness, free consultation, and you can give this to your borrower to call me, or you can just have it. And I can't tell you how many times our biz boxes go to a realtor and then go to a borrower that comes back to the loan officer and said, thank you for this gift.
So that's what some of this stuff, I'm sure you don't have all of the data on, but like, I'm so impressed at the thought that you put into this and then the execution. And I'm guessing the results, like, what are you seeing from the results? What is the feedback you're getting?
The loan officers love it. I mean, it's just, again, it's so exhausting to try to come up with the conversation every week when you walk into a realtor's office, like, what do you say? But because we then send a matching email from that flyer to everyone in their database, so the realtors are getting that email. It's the same week we do the social media
Are you
posts.
automating that to the realtors then?
We don't automate it because we do have to make sure the tchotchkes come in and get mailed. It's kind of a little bit of a process. We have many things automated, but not.
But are you sending it out for the loan officer, or do they have to go in and push send?
I'm sorry. So we definitely send that out for the loan officers.
Got it. Okay. So you send on behalf of them.
That's right.
Yeah.
So they likely that the realtor has received the email. Then they walk in that same week with a matching slick, we printed on nice paper flyer and a little giveaway. And then they've seen it on social media in their feed. And so what we can start to see is a trend of engagement. And, that's really one of the major tools, tying your, like Google Analytics, let's say. It's fantastic to be able to go in and not only see what the keyword searches are, like what are people searching now? What are rates versus refinance now, right? What is the conversation? Is it a good time to move when I'm pregnant? Should I wait till next year to buy, right? The terms are different, so we can trend that. And then we can put those terms into the messaging that we have. So it's just a great combination of staying in touch with what's going on in the market.
That's incredible. And what is super cool about what you're talking about is it's shifting the entire conversation from, hey, I'm going out to talk to my referral partners about, hey, do you have a deal for me? To let's be strategic. Let's start educating tomorrow's buyers now so that we take them through the entire journey. So you're going way up funnel and controlling the conversation.
That's exactly right. We are always thinking what's happening next quarter. Let's start talking about it now.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So the loan officer feedback is great. I'm guessing the realtor feedback is great. And from an application standpoint, some of these initiatives, do you see as you launch these campaigns and the business, what is the proper word? Business in a box? What is the phrase?
It's called the Biz Box.
The biz box. The biz box.
Yes.
Have you seen the numbers translate into applications yet? Obviously the engagement is happening, but have you been able to tie those things together?
The market has been so volatile that
Yeah.
it's very difficult to say this particular month the BizBox was so successful, because it is literally subjective feedback, and you know how difficult
Sure.
that is to get from the field. What I can tell you is we had an M4. Remember, that's our Make More Money Monday. We had our M4 this Monday, and we were talking about something that went out in the biz box, and someone had a success with it, and they again, someone they never met came to them and said, "Thanks for my gift," and they were explaining this, and the other loan officers. About 3 of them on the call are not receiving BizBox. Again, like I said, 70 to 80% of them are. And they're like, "How much is that again? What do y'all get there? Okay, go ahead and sign me up." Because
Yep.
they're getting, so if these guys didn't find value in it, they would not keep doing it, even at $25 a month. And frankly, I don't want to do it if they don't find value in it. There's things to be done. So this is working.
There's no question. I mean, we see the data in a bigger form when you're doing things that look at the entire funnel and you're driving engagement so far up funnel, and the consistency is happening. And it sounds like that is the numbers always follow. And I think the important part is you guys are adjusting to the fact that your incubation time period for many of these buyers is just simply longer, right? And so what you're doing in the financial fitness component of it, which is so powerful. Very cool. So I think we've hit on this, but if you think about the top performers, okay, what do you see them doing that's so different from the middle of the road people?
I feel like, since now I've been here 4 years, I can kind of see, the cycles of at least the times of the year, is that the best loan officers I hear from less when it gets serious. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's when I know it's really serious. It's like, he hasn't reached out in a while, say, "Great business," or, something. And so that means they're just working much smarter and not harder. And in fact, we had our national sales conference last week, and I always present at the conference, whatever's going on in technology and marketing. And I talked for about really the first 10 minutes about gold and the sort of metals mania that's going on worldwide, and shipping gold and silver all around. And what is that about? In our lifetimes, we really haven't heard that. And I got into the history of gold, and that we essentially had lost the perception of the value. The value was always there, but we got off the perception of the value. And so in the earlier days of gold mining, when people would go and like pan for gold, rushing out to California to do pan for gold, they were just finding little flakes and getting so excited in a very crowded area, right? Everybody was panning for gold. So the smart one said, "Screw that. I'm going out. I'm digging down. I'm digging deep. I'm going to have my own gold mine. I'm going to mine it. I'm going to put a fence around it. I'm going to say there's no trespassers allowed." And so I ended it with, "And good news for you, you all have a gold mine. And we just forgot the value of your database. I'm going to remind you how to market to it. We're going to dig deep. You're going to put a fence around it. None of these other loan officers know what's in your gold mine. And we're going to teach you how to get back to basics on a one-to-one level with these guys." And it was just kind of like this aha of like, I do have to use those sales boomerang alerts. That's right. It's like, yes, that is your gold mine. Going out, I said, guess what? When you go out with your big heavy pan to go sifting and looking for gold that day, and you are determined to go to that realtor's office, and you walk in determined to start filling it with all that dirt so you can find the gold, and there are 3 other loan officers in there, you're not getting any flakes that day. Okay, you missed it. So go back to your database and mine that. You own all of those nuggets. So
that is so powerful. And I think such a great analogy about the value in your database and people that already know you and have done business with you and trust you, and how people have forgotten the power of that, right? And how it compounds, and you can build an exponential business from just doubling down. And I always talk about it as like put your arms around your entire customer base, right? Which you're saying put a fence
Yes,
around it.
exactly. Right.
And so what you guys do, which we fundamentally believe in, is you're also protecting the pipeline by getting intelligence and alerts. And I know you guys are a Boomerang customer, and they do a great job of, having data and alerts coming in. We have multiple sources of that intelligence, but you're really surfacing that intelligence to help protect those opportunities, right? Yeah.
That's exactly. And it's all about the tools. It's initiating, across the different tools. And I would say that's another sort of strategy change I made this year, is taking complete ownership of the end-to-end solution, both for the loan officer and the borrower. But if you look at the ability to get an alert in Total Expert from Sales Boomerang and put relevant information into a Mortgage Coach output, that is real insights. That is a differentiator between our loan officers and maybe anyone else, because if they deliver, some of them were saying, but what am I going to send a mortgage coach for, right? Rates are worse. They're not refinancing. I said, then that is the conversation. Let me compare the mortgage that you got last year. Let me compare what your options would be today. I am so glad you got that mortgage last year. Look how well I served you. Look at the numbers. Right. And this beautiful format on their phone where they go, honey, thank God we did this last year. Look where we'd be. They can't translate that interest rates has risen and what that really means to them right now, because they likely have no intention of moving, understanding that the rates are higher.
But you're keeping them educated on the market and what's happening. You're keeping them educated on their whole financial picture, which is,
right. You're serving them with their own information. That's
I love Dave Savage with Mortgage Coach. I just caught up with him in California at the conference, and we're both very, very passionate about like the power of talking about financial health and wellness and that holistic picture, and it all feeds into that. And
I heard you rocked it at IMB, by the way. I wish I'd have seen it.
Oh, I don't know about that. No, we had it was a good conference. Yeah,
I heard it was great. I heard you did great.
It was fun. One of the things I wanted to drill on is when we talk about putting a fence around the pipeline, your database, past customers, using alerts, where we have seen breakdown with certain organizations is sometimes they have data teams, they have insights teams, and those insights don't necessarily go into a workflow or an automation, and you're reliant on somebody to do something. Are you guys, and I should probably know this, but are you guys utilizing automation to kind of surface the best practices and say, here's what you do, here's what you say?
You better believe it. So we have different messages based on the type of information that we're getting, but nothing is better than the alerts that says, right now, this is what's going on. So sending out messaging images based on that behavior some people get very big brother about it. Hey, I see that you pulled your mortgage credit somewhere else, right? We basically send something out in that particular circumstance that says mortgage on your mind, ? And don't forget, we have 5-star service. Read our reviews. I'm still here for you. Free quotes. And then at some point, ideally within the 24 hours that gets sent, the loan officer or the loan officer assistant calls. And so often I've heard them say, "Oh yeah, I did see that email. Yeah, let's talk." So it wasn't such a cold out of the blue conversation. They were a little warmed up to, that was that guy's name. That's right.
So you season. This is really important. So you're getting a piece of content in front of the consumer, which refreshes them on, oh, okay, even if they don't respond, so that when they call, they've actually got another point of reference and it's not just so out of the blue.
That's exactly right. It's just, all marketing really can do, and particularly in a difficult industry like this, is read the signs. That's the Google Analytics, right? What is the word search? What is the word search volume? What are the regions that they're searching more? And warm up the conversation for the loan officer. At that point, it's a sales job, right? So those guys are good. They wouldn't be here if they weren't, but they definitely could use a little warm up. So that's what we do.
Have you found it when you initially are using alerts and intelligence to surface opportunities and automate things? Did you initially get resistance from people saying, "Hey, I don't want something going out to my customer automatically"? Did you get that resistance?
Mostly, most people said you will not, like an in-process communication. You will not let my borrower know they're in underwriting before I do. And so that again was very important support from the executive team. So that's where I said, look, we don't want to control the relationship between the loan officer and the client, but we will control our brand. We will control that they got communicated to as fast as we have that information. And of course, your system allows us to sort of delay. We can say from this time, wait 24 hours and then send that
Sure.
message. So there's some synergy between how it works best. But that's where they're not allowed to opt into or out of very critical communications with borrowers. They are allowed, oddly enough, to opt out of some of the blanket wide communications. This is some of the automations that we do every month, and none of them do. Whereas initially, we probably only had half of them opted in. But so many people said, particularly when it was busy, if those emails didn't go out regularly, I mean, my phone just rings. They get them, and if someone's only doing a transaction every 2 or 3 years, they're not going to remember your name necessarily unless you're keeping in touch with them or you hit them right when they're ready. And so that database literally was their gold mine during the busy years of 2020, 2021.
Yeah, no question. I absolutely love the conversation, and obviously I'm not at all surprised to hear some of these insights from you, because you're at the absolute top of the game in this industry without a question. In closing, I would say, is there one piece of advice, if you could look at everything that you're doing, one piece of advice for the listeners out there that you think is important to be successful in 2023?
Yes. We may have to alter our budgets. We may have to alter our patience because everybody's a little stressed right now, but do not alter your plan. Do not stop going forward. And it may be more preparatory than action right now for some people. Fortunately for us, we are so dedicated to the end-to-end solution and making it very streamlined for both parties, the loan officers, the operations teams, and of course our clients, that we are continuing to develop. And it's tough. These are tough decisions to be made. But whatever you do, don't stop the vision, because when this turns around, it will not look like 2019, because those of us that stayed in it and dug in will come out of the other side night and day from those that didn't. And that's where we can compete.
True. I absolutely believe that. And home ownership in America is not going anywhere. And so using these opportunities, this market as an opportunity to really dig in and grow the business is really exciting. And in your position, I can see why you're so excited. Some of the great things that you have going on, Katherine. As always, really fantastic catching up. Thank you so much for sharing the knowledge. Much appreciated. And look forward to seeing you guys win this year.
Thank you for being such a great partner. Couldn't do it without you. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks so much for joining us today. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.